Oh, hey there. So, remember when I said I would be talking about Star Wars? Now is the time. I've taken a lot of time to really formulate what I wanted to say. And now I think I got it. Ready? Here it is. Star Wars isn't great. At least, right now, it isn't great. Which, as far as brand identity goes, is a far cry from what it used to be. See, Star Wars was once a science fiction titan long ago, which in modern times is impossible to believe for many, given how Disney has been treating the franchise. What has Disney been up to? Well, being disingenuous, rude to its fan bases, and my personal favorite, not connecting with general audiences anymore. Wow, this is $1 billion film company. Let's not pretend that Disney is innocent here. Even if you were willing to defend Mickey with your life, and there's something commendable about fighting for what you believe in, there really is, you can't deny that the rat has taken a bit of a beating from fan backlash, and an overall lack of fucks to give when it comes to executing storytelling. I cannot sit here and believe that you think that The Acolyte was competent television, but you are allowed to like it. I'm not gonna tell you you can't, and nobody should. I don't agree with your taste, but you're allowed to have it. Is that fair? So, please don't get mad for what I'm about to say, because I know Star Wars is a sensitive topic for everybody involved, and there are several good reasons as to why that is. I will briefly discuss them here, though nothing too long-winded or dramatic, because I don't need to dramatize this. We're all feeling frustrated, so I think we established the tone before any of us even walked in today. Frustration or fatigue, disappointment, outrage, all valid feelings for a franchise that we collectively love in one way or the other. Around the time of the acquisition, Disney had released Tron Legacy, a movie that I happen to love, despite having Disney's name on it. I mean, I am a science fiction nerd, and that was right up my alley. I was very much the target audience for that. With quality like that of Tron Legacy under Disney's belt, surely Star Wars would get a good chance of having such a treatment as well. Long story short, it didn't. Kathleen Kennedy was given 3 new movie scripts written by George himself as a final hurrah before handing over the franchise he created. Something that... Do you fucking mind, sir? Who the fuck was that guy? Kathleen Kennedy was given 3 new movie scripts written by George as a final hurrah before handing over the franchise. Something that would have been appropriate and made the transition from Lucas to Disney easier on fans. Kathleen, however, for whatever reason, threw those scripts away and started hiring filmmakers left and right to just make something. And with very little planning and communication between film teams, we got the sequel trilogy. And I'm not getting into that can of worms because we'd be here all day. And I don't want this to be a long video. All you need to know is that the fan base was being divided and Disney was facilitating this with immature and outright toxic behavior. See, fans had several issues with the movie. The pacing, the structure, characters, none of it was working. And the fans acknowledged that. When word got to Disney, however, I don't know exactly what happened, but I think they might have seen some actual racist comments, and rather than do the adult thing of ignoring the obvious racists, Disney fed the trolls and took it out on everyone. Now, every Star Wars fan is some kind of ist or phobe, and the company that now owns our favorite franchise is choosing to take its anger out on us, and so retaliate by hiring directors and writers who only write socio-political jargon that ultimately says nothing to nobody every time. I mentioned in the Silent Running video how Avatar wants to have the message of environmentalism, while also wanting to be about anti-colonialism. You can have both topics in the movie, and I agree with both messages. However, its weakness is failing to draw a clear line between both topics, instead treating them as one and the same. This makes both arguments feel disingenuous, but nevertheless, it's a fun spectacle. Agreeable messaging, however, is just not enough. You know who else uses agreeable sounding messaging to get what they want? Cultists. No matter what your message is, you should be communicating that throughout your story by giving us examples of that message.
Don't be racist. I am a building and I've got news for you. Hey, there's Steven. Blacks and whites are even. How would you feel if the joke was on you?
You want to make a movie about environmentalism? Consider putting the last forests on Earth in a biodome and blowing them up with nukes. That's some striking imagery to help emphasize your message of conservation. How about selling viewers on a rocket to the moon? Consider making a movie that demonstrates how such a feat would be possible. I want to go home now. When you really think about it, a movie isn't so different from a TED Talk. TED Talks have a limited time to make their points, and so often follow a formula that goes something like this. Present a problem. Show how the current solution is not enough. Present new solution. Explain why new solution is better. End of TED Talk. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all. Now, a TED Talk isn't a movie, but a movie follows similar structures. The most common and foolproof of these structures is the 3-act structure, demonstrated by the following graph. And I'll hold on it so you can really look at it. The structure allows for any story of any topic or theme to be placed into this structure and form a narrative based on a few simple prompts. We have the exposition, providing us with context on the world, characters, and so on. The inciting incident, which sets our characters on their adventure. We have some rising actions, the climax, where the hero either succeeds or fails their goal, then the resolution, where the main theme of the story should click. The 3-act structure is satisfying, as it gives us only the necessary information to retain the events of the story, allowing audiences to actively engage with it, even if it takes place in an outlandish fantasy setting. The 3-act structure is foolproof in ensuring that your message remains the primary focus of your story at all times. Think about Star Wars a moment. It sort of follows a 3-act structure. We have the exposition of a spacefaring civilization in the midst of a civil war. A princess has been kidnapped by some dude in a gimp costume and a cape. The princess dispatches robots with important information in an escape pod, where they end up in the possession of a farm boy named Luke. Luke finds a message, meets Obi-Wan, learns that his father was a Jedi, and when he receives his call to action, he declines. The movie needs him to go on this adventure, however, so let's give him a reason by killing his aunt and uncle. Boom! Inciting incident. Now there's nothing left for him on Tatooine, and so he chooses to go on the adventure. They get in a scuffle at the bar, escape on a spaceship, and then get captured by the bad guys. Fortunately, they roll nat 20s and are able to go undercover, unnoticed by everyone. They rescue the princess, the mentor figure dies, Luke has a no moment, they escape again, fight off some TIE fighters, then they make it to Yavin with the princess safe and sound. I'm getting the hell out of here. Woo! Then we get a final showdown where Luke must fight the massive Doom Ball in a small snub fighter, and he wins by shoving proton torpedoes up the Empire's tailpipe. We then get our resolution with a celebration at the end where the heroes of the rebellion get their medals. Except for Chewbacca. He doesn't need one. He's already golden. What was the message? Simple. It's about hope. A rebellion facing impossible odds must defeat an overwhelming galactic empire, and a lowly farm boy rises to the occasion to defeat evil. The other movies would expand on these concepts by challenging them. In the next movie, Luke actually loses to Vader, but he's able to escape, albeit badly injured and missing a couple things. His lightsaber, and I think his primary hand? The least Vader could have done is ask him which hand he jerked off with before cutting it off. I mean, let him keep the good one at least. I mean, fuck, dude. But the point I took away from the second movie is that sometimes hope isn't enough. Sure, he saved his friends, but he's taken some pretty big psychological damage from this encounter and still has to rescue Han. I mean, I think learning that Space Hitler is my dad would probably fuck with my headspace a bit too. We get into the third movie and we see everything culminate into a final massive battle over the small moon of Endor. It's a close finish, but the rebellion comes out on top again. Luke and Vader have one final and very emotional showdown in the Emperor's throne room, and it almost seems as though Luke is going to turn to the dark side. But he comes to his senses. He's a Jedi, and he's choosing to not win the war through senseless violence. He has compassion for his father, despite knowing who he is. He refuses to give in to his anger, rises above it, and when the Emperor begins electrocuting Luke, something snaps in Vader, and he kills the Emperor to save his son. Two powerful arcs from two of cinema's greatest characters have just happened in this scene alone. Vader gets to take his mask off, see his son with his own eyes, and passes away. Luke takes him back to Endor, where he burns the body and pays his respects. There's a big celebration to truly signify that we have reached Journey's end. It's a truly incredible moment that feels earned every time. Personally, I prefer the special edition version of this ending, because the new music for it is just perfect. This would be the end of one of the greatest sci-fi franchises ever made, and it would always be known as the great finish for a great franchise. A franchise that showed us the importance of hope, the dangers of relying solely on hope, and the reinforcement of hope through willpower and resilience. What we fight for is just as important as why, and it's what makes that final showdown so emotional. And sure, this is an abridged explanation. I'm more paraphrasing the full story than anything, but you can see where the appeal of Star Wars stems from. It speaks to something in all of us, and that's no accident. Lucas knew what he was doing, and if it hasn't registered for you yet, don't worry, I can explain. After all, it's what I do. See, before becoming a filmmaker, Lucas had studied anthropology. I also took an anthropology course in college, and a big part of anthropology is understanding human societies and cultures. Now, something that can be noticed throughout all of human history, even in civilizations that had never contacted one another before, commonalities existed. Often, civilizations would develop similar ideas to help sustain themselves. A pool of culture, beliefs, perhaps even a deity or two or 10 to worship, systems of governing, farming, mythology, legends. All of these commonalities were the driving inspiration behind the universe of Star Wars. There are many alien races in Star Wars with their own beliefs, cultures, and ideas, but they probably share commonalities with our own to a degree. Hell, these commonalities expand beyond Star Wars into basically any world-building endeavor. Whether you seek to develop new lands, religions, or languages for whatever race, species, or subspecies that inhabits your world, there are commonalities you can pull from as inspiration in the real world to create your own. Ow! Coffee table, that's the coffee table. Shit. The prequels, for example, were heavily inspired by the fall of Rome, and so those commonalities exist within those movies. Anthropology played a big role in the development of Star Wars. The story, the universe, everything was inspired by this field of study, and it influenced the direction of the franchise under Lucas's tenure. See, while Lucas approached Star Wars with an anthropology mindset, Disney approached it with something more corporate. Post-acquisition, you might start to notice that the once sprawling and vibrant galaxy we were once adventuring in started feeling like a generic space RPG. No charm, no wit, nothing. Where Lucas Star Wars would be brimming with life, culture, and civilization, Disney Star Wars was a display of glorified diorama sets, with some of the puppets looking worse than the main antagonists in Terrahawks, characters that were meant to be ugly. Mythology, legends, boiled down into generic plot devices that mean nothing to anybody, not even to most of the characters in the damn story they wrote. The expanded universe? Gone. Replaced by whatever they want, whenever they want, with blatant disregard for what came before, even contradicting their own stories. But what can we do? Well, continue to voice our disapproval. It's all we really can do. We can't force Disney to make certain decisions at the end of the day. I believe the saying is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. We can voice our disapproval all day, but that might not be enough to change their minds, if that's even possible at this point. Does that mean we should stop? Of course not. We love this franchise. But perhaps our approach of voicing these concerns can change. See, Disney expects us to be more ravenous and seething, but in reality, I'm just over their shit and want to see competency in my films again. So how should we approach the discussion moving forward? Well, you're allowed to say what you want. I can't stop you, and I won't. But some things to consider avoiding should be the following. Inflammatory remarks. It's best not to approach with too much hostility. It supports Disney's rhetoric that the fans are the ones being toxic. If we can prove that we're more collected when it comes to the discussion of Star Wars, it might help bolster our public rep a bit. Remember, Padawan, there is no emotion, there is peace. Offensive criticism. Star Wars needs to have good stories. Simple as that. Race, gender, and identity should be inconsequential to that goal. So let's avoid making remarks about a character's or actor's race or gender if we can. Most fans are pretty good at avoiding this one, but I'm including it anyways to cover our asses. You're welcome. Personal jabs. No hitting below the belt. Disney can do that all they want, but it makes them look bad. We must be like Luke and rise above such things. Threats. Just don't do that. And most important of all, know who to blame. You can't blame an actor for shitty writing. If you're gonna direct your frustration, channel it to the right source. Blaming the wrong people for the wrong thing makes you look stupid. Think before you speak. Following these guidelines has helped me to write this video, and I'm sure it can help you to formulate exactly the words you're looking to communicate. Hell, most of these, if not all of them, are just common sense. At least, I think they are. I hope they are? Regardless, they're here anyways, so there it is, I guess. If Disney isn't looking to make changes for the sake of the fan base, then the fan base is going to have to be the change. And it's always the most effective to lead by example. I want to see more positive conversations about my favorite genre. And to accomplish this, I'm choosing to put that philosophy into my content. Be the change you want to see and you will see change. It's nothing noble, but it's a nice philosophy that I've taken on board. So, yeah, that's about it. I wanted to keep it short, so some things might have been glossed over, but if you're gonna have a discussion in the comments, all I ask is that we keep it civil. We can disagree and have different opinions, but we can also talk out our disagreements like grown adults and show each other respect. We're all fans, after all, and that sets a great example for the future. Just don't expect me to be active in that discussion because I already said my piece here, and I'm tired and have other movies to watch that aren't The Acolyte. And that's the video. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Stark Cinema. Kind of a funny story, too. I was watching his video where he explains The Acolyte, kind of similar to what I do on this channel. And I had clicked off one of his Acolyte videos to listen to a cover of the ending song from Return of the Jedi, and I wanted to use that song for the ending of the video, so I left a comment asking if I could include it in the video. A few minutes later, I got a response, except it was from Stark Cinema and not the composer. Apparently what had happened was that the video loaded, but the comments section from Stark's video didn't refresh with the video I clicked on, because YouTube was drunk or something. So I thought I commented on the song, but I commented on Stark's video instead. But get this, Stark, despite the odd question, said yes, and I was embarrassed, despite this being YouTube's fault. But he was very polite, and I appreciated that, so thank you, Stark. You get a shout out for that one. Of course, you do have more subscribers than me, so maybe consider returning the favor? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Also, I have to say it because it can't be avoided, but Stark looks and sounds exactly like Cartho Nassi from the Knights of the Old Republic series. And look, all I'm saying is that you could probably rock a cosplay contest. People win money in those. Just saying. But that's enough out of me. This is the Captain. Signing off.
Hey, Stan.
Hey there, Trixie.
What you singing about?
Oh, not much. Just skyscraper stuff, like racism. Don't be racist, we both are buildings, listen to what we mean. Love one another, sisters and brothers, or we will haunt your dreams. Or we will haunt your dreams. Or we will haunt